be with all of you. And tonight is a very beautiful topic, the power of introversion. And I'm going to explore it from a different angle compared to how we usually think of introversion. And yes, for those of you who are meeting me for the first time, my name is Pratibha and I'm based in our center here in Johannesburg. So it's really lovely to be with all of you this evening. So we're going to start off with a meditation, which I'd like us to just step into before we start exploring the topic itself. And this meditation is about true listening because I think the power of introversion, one of its key um, gifts or capacities in a way that it enhances for us, is that it allows us to really listen, to really be present and listen to what is being exchanged and shared. So let's start off with that meditation first, and then we can explore the topic further. So, as always, I just ask you to sit relaxed and just enjoy this meditation as it guides us through. Okay.
To begin the art of true listening, I first need to make my mind as clear as the open sky, free of agendas, opinions, judgments, free of any rushing, just simply quiet and clear. Listening, whether listening to myself or listening to another or listening to God, is an act of love that allows the soul to connect and bind. In these next few moments, we'll take some time to listen to the self. Step away now from the roles you play, from your background, your name, your history. Imagine it all as a costume you can simply leave behind you as you enter a space of simple silence and solitude. Allow the silence of the setting around you to clear your mind and carry you to a deep, peaceful, serene space inside, becoming as simple as the trees and the earth around you. And now gently ask the question, who am I? Just ask that question to yourself. Who am I? And don't try to design the answer, but simply become quiet. Stay in that simple space and listen for the answer. Who is the real me? Accept whatever visual emerges. Maybe it's a word, a feeling. Listen for your soul's response. Now gently ask another question. What are my original qualities? What are my eternal pure qualities? Not the qualities that emerge from the roles I play, but the ones that are deep inside of me, that bring radiance to my mind and beauty to my life and the lives of other people. What are my qualities? Gently ask yourself this question and listen for the answer. We hear only what we are listening for. And by posing simple questions to ourselves, we're able to listen with a focus, with an intention. Keep allowing your mind to just rest on this question. What are my real, eternal qualities? And carrying the peace of this space and carrying the answers to your questions. Return now to your daily life, knowing that you've taken a moment to listen to something deeper inside of yourself. And by listening to that deeper part of yourself, you have given yourself an act of love and can now practice that same listening for those around you.
So that was a beautiful meditation, just taking us into that experience of just listening and becoming present. So when we talk about introversion, that's what introversion really entails. We have become extremely conditioned to really be so overstimulated by the external. So much of how we see ourselves and how we engage is completely stimulated by external triggers. What people are saying, what the media is saying, what the news is all about. And all of this, not only does it create a noise around us, which then becomes a noise within us, but it also becomes a noise that we begin to define ourselves by, because the loudest noises in a way begins to tell us who we are and where we place ourselves in all of this that is happening around us. Um, so one of the things that we learned through spirituality and through the art of meditation, it's just this awareness that is given birth to. And that awareness is that my inner world is my creation. So the art or the power of introversion is really taking the reins in your hands in a way to recognize and realize that my inner world is my inner creation. And for me, that's what introversion is all about. It's becoming present to my inner world. It's becoming more aware and recognizing and taking accountability for my inner world, because there's a deep connection. The connection is that to the extent that I allow my external world to trigger the thinking in me, to stimulate me, to influence me, etc., that all happens as thoughts that begin to occur in my mind. And to the extent that I allow that influence, to that extent, I give the power of my heart to those influences, because the way I think will always relate to the way I feel. And if I want to shift the way I feel, then I have to start taking accountability for the way I think. So the first thing is becoming aware and seeing what is it that I'm creating inside of me. And, you know, taking time to just become present to the influences around me. So, a very good practice, and it's like take in your day, um, choose moments in your day. And I do it, in the routine of things, while I'm brushing my teeth, or while I'm having a shower, or while I'm making my cup of tea, or while I'm driving, or, in the routine of things that I am doing. I take a moment and I ask myself, what is it that I'm thinking about right now? And when I ask myself that question, what is it that I am thinking about right now? That starts giving me an idea of what is it that I am being influenced by. Am I thinking about what someone had said? Am I thinking about um, the news? Am I thinking about what happened last week or last year or 10 years ago? Or, you know, what is it that I'm allowing to continue as a record that keeps playing in my mind? And I have to start observing that, because without that level of observation of what is happening inside, the same record continues to play. So for me, the power of introversion is actually asking myself that question. What is it that I'm thinking about right now? Because that question of asking myself what is happening inside creates awareness. And awareness is the first step to transformation. We can't change course um, in terms of the direction we are moving in without taking that moment of pause and actually seeing what is actually happening. So, awareness gives me choice. And without awareness, um, there's no choice. And when there's no choice, then what does that mean? It simply means that I'm then operating from habit. So I can only break habit when I create awareness. Can you begin to see the linkages here? So the power of introversion is to become present to what is happening in my mind, and that asking myself that question, what is it that I'm thinking, creates awareness, and then awareness gives me choice. And with choice, then I can begin to choose a different direction, or I can choose to um, empower myself by a different quality of thinking. Because as I think, so I feel. And as I think, so becomes my world. Because my thinking creates, like it's like a continuous thinking becomes an attitude that I hold within. And that attitude that I hold within then begins to ultimately lead to a belief system that I live by. You know, it's a simple thing like Um, if I'll use an example of something that perhaps people have had the experience of. I've had the experience perhaps of someone lying to me. Okay. They spoke half truths to me. And I realized that that is what they did. So now every time I see them, I hold that thought, oh, this person lies, I can't trust them. And so what happens is every time I hold that thought, every time I see them, that's the same thought that I keep repeating in my mind. It becomes my attitude towards them, an attitude of mistrust towards them. And that then eventually, it's like it leads to a belief system. This person is not to be trusted. Okay. So then I will always be cautious around them. I will always be, I will never give them a chance in a way, because that's how I see them. And that's what I will draw out of them. And because that becomes my attitude, and that becomes my vibration, that is how they would tend to always respond to me as well. It's like I draw that response out because of the attitude I hold within. So that's where I find that introversion is actually asking me to recheck myself and to challenge myself, that that attitude that I'm having, that belief system that I'm having, is that valid? Does that serve me? Or is that just building big barriers around my heart, and it's not allowing me to really grow and create real deep connections? I also find that why is it important to really watch the self and watch my inner world and clear these aspects out for myself within, is because whatever I'm holding internally, it also influences or affects my connection with the divine. It's almost like if I have mistrust for you, um, I certainly will also have mistrust for the divine. It's because there's a fear to really release the heart and connect. So I find that clearing out my own heart towards others helps me then to create a deeper connection with the divine. And for me, that is very important and precious. So this first thing of really just becoming very present to what is happening inside of me, and taking accountability for it, because when I take accountability for it, it's like I'm reclaiming my power. And a way of understanding this is that um, when I get influenced by people, by situations, etc., what happens in that moment is that my capacity to make a decision, my capacity to respond is compromised. Um, I begin to feel vulnerable when I'm influenced. Um, and so that's why the more that I can come back to a place inside of me that I feel, number one, comfortable, number two, clear, and I feel aligned with something that is meaningful and deep for myself inside, then that internal alignment that I begin to feel then is where my power lies, you know. Um, and in a very simple way, to just put it, that internal alignment is really about just being peaceful. The more I can feel peaceful, the more I am in my power. And peace isn't um, it isn't that I'm not active or that I'm disconnected with the world around me. No, it isn't that. I always like looking at peace is like it's an energy that anchors me deeply. And when I feel anchored in a way, clear, still, connected in that way, where my mind is not buzzing with 110 thoughts, but there's a clarity inside, then it's like there's this capacity to make a decision. There's a capacity then to respond with maturity. There's a capacity to access the wisdom that is within me. And important as well is that there's a capacity to be patient, to flow with things. Um, because a lot of the times, what happens is that when there's too much of a noise inside, it's like I'm driven by desire and not by awareness. And when I'm driven by desire, there's oftentimes an impatience that that accompanies that desire as well. So where there's wisdom, there's patience, because wisdom knows that things emerge at its right time in the right way. And it's never that I let go of a high vision. The vision is always there and it's quite clear, but there is a patience that goes with it as well. So for me, that is what introversion really is about. It's really becoming present to that what's happening inside of me, and how am I nurturing and what am I giving energy and power to what is happening inside of me. There's a very beautiful saying that goes that it's in Hindi, and I'm going to share it because it rhymes lovely in Hindi. That goes that antarmukhi sada sukhi, which really means that the one who is introvert is always very happy. And it's like a joy internally that cannot be, um, that's not dependent on circumstance, but a joy that is within me, that's coming from a deep state of inner awareness of who I am, you know. And so that's the whole aspect, that when there's introversion, it it allows me to continuously grow from within, because that kind of internal checking, I keep refining myself inside. And as I keep refining myself inside, checking myself, changing, watching my attitudes, shifting my attitudes, challenging my thinking, making my thinking more broader, um, watching that I'm not coming from a place of old patterns, but that I'm keeping fresh and new and clear. So that kind of internal checking that I do, that then allows me to feel that I'm growing and I'm not stuck. Because the worst thing that we can feel is that when we feel locked by our habits. And one of the habits that we have in terms of what we do physically, but I think where we really feel trapped is the trapped in the habits of our thinking. And we feel stuck then. And that's where a lot of our discontentment grows, because we actually feel trapped in our habits. And as a result of feeling trapped in our habits, it's like we can't see ourselves moving forward. Um, and when I feel trapped in my own habits, then I begin to project my discontentment into things outside of me. So what happens is then I'm trying to feed myself from the external. And that's what extroversion is all about. I'm trying to feed my sense of joy or my sense of satisfaction or my sense of fulfillment from external things, whether it's from my relationships, whether it is from my achievements, whether it's from the weather or whatever it is. But I'm wanting something out there to fulfill what I'm feeling as a lack inside of me. And what's out there can never fulfill me completely, constantly. We all know that. So my contentment that I'm seeking, my sense of inner joy that I'm seeking, that comes from a feeling of knowing that I'm growing, that I'm not stuck, I'm not caged in a habit of thinking, but that I am growing within me. So that is very important, and that then really allows the self to feel lighter, more fulfilled. That can be very flexible as well. Um, and the beauty of when I feel content inside is that I see beauty around me as well. In every little interaction and connection, I can begin to seek out um, what is good, what is beautiful, what is fulfilling, what serves in a way. You know, a person who is unhappy inside will always find fault. Sorry, just let me take a sip. Yeah, a person who's unhappy within will always find fault in things around them, in people around them. But when I'm content within, it's like my contentment gives me new eyes. I see differently, um, and I begin to seek out what is good. Um, there's a very lovely image that a friend of mine shared, and she grew up in Soweto, and in quite a poor community in Soweto. And by the time she reached matric, most of her friends had already been pregnant and stuff like that, but she hadn't been. And so her mother said, "You are like a rose that is growing out of concrete." And I I really love that image. I mean, she's doing so extremely well, and really working on uh, internationally, um, for an NGO, looking at AIDS rights and AIDS patients, etc. But it's almost like even in the most barren of places, there is some beauty that, if given the chance, can emerge and flourish. And I think when you feeling internally content inside of yourself, um, because you're growing constantly, it's like you look at your environment with the eye of opportunity, not with the eye of failure, or the eye of discontentment, or the eye of criticism, but the eye of opportunity. There's always an opportunity in everything. The other lesson that I also learned, and that was something that Daddy Janki shared once. Daddy Janki was the previous administrative head of the university. And in one of her talks, she shared something very lovely. She said that sometimes people come to her and say, um, "Daddy, I didn't get an opportunity to do this or do that or whatever. I also want to grow, but I don't get opportunities. And Daddy said something very lovely. She said, always prepare yourself. Prepare yourself for the opportunities you seek. And it's almost like when my energy internally is ready, then it's like physically it manifests itself. I don't have to go chasing after things because that's how in extroversion we lived. You know, we went chasing after things. But the power of introversion is like I prepare myself. I prepare myself internally with the right consciousness, the right attitude, the right vision, the right capacity, a capacity for, you know, reflecting, capacity for engagement, capacity for listening, capacity for communicating clearly, whatever it is. I prepare myself internally. And then it's like my internal preparation then manifests the external. So I don't have to go chasing after things, but I attract, you know, I attract what I prepare myself for. And so that's working from the inside out. And that's what the power of introversion is all about. It's about learning to work from the inside out. It's working with soul energy rather than the energy of just um, persuasion or manipulation or external forms of power that we see. And the aspect that I also feel that is important, that the more and more that we see things in the world that's happening, and it's almost like the more and more we have to refine soul energy and learn to trust soul energy, the power of our thoughts, the power of our good wishes, um, and to have faith in this subtle power. So introversion is helping me to harness this inner power. And as I harness this inner power, then I begin to trust it and use it. So, for example, if I'm faced with a challenge, maybe I have a challenging relationship, and we all have a relationship or two that is challenging, right? We all have had that experience. Um, and sometimes some relationships can't be resolved by sitting down and having a conversation. There's perhaps just too much of hurt, and sometimes you're not willing to engage because you know the other person is just going to deny it. They're not ready for that kind of honest, open engagement. So, what do we do in that stage? You know, we have to heal it. And so that's when we also learn to heal it by trusting the power of pure thoughts, the power of good wishes, you know, learning to use soul power. And soul power means power of love, pure love. And pure love is very unconditional. It's not to say I'm only going to do this because of this or because you will do this. No, pure love is unconditional. And I do it because it's love. And love aligns me with my deepest truth, because love is the original quality of the soul. So, just the way peace stabilizes me, love is my highest expression. So, I work with that energy of love, bringing love into my thinking, bringing love into my feelings, bringing love into my attitude. And so, a lovely practice that was shared with me last night when I was on another session, and Jenna just shared a lovely practice that she's doing, which I thought would be nice to share with all of you. And that is just that every person that she meets or when she's engaging with someone, she looks at them and she says, um, forget, I forget that I am Pratibha. And if I'm seeing you, I forget you in terms of your form and your role and the history that I have with you. So I just let that disappear for a moment. And just between us, let's just create this connection of just, I'm light, I'm love, I'm consciousness. And I see you as light and love. And just for a moment, I just hold that awareness. Let everything else just melt away. The roles, the forms, the images, the histories. And for this moment, I just hold that awareness that our connection is about soul to soul energy. And when we begin to practice this, see what it does. See how it begins to shift that inner dialogue in your mind, that inner record in your mind. And my advice or suggestion would be start with the people closest to you. Because the people closest to us, the ones that we know best, is the ones that sometimes we have the most judgment towards. It's sometimes easier to have compassionate feelings towards strangers that we see in a difficult situation, but it's sometimes more difficult to have that kind of compassionate, unconditional, loving attitude towards people that I do know. So work with that. Experiment with the power of your thoughts. Experiment with the power of that energy of love that is within you, and watch how that begins to impact. Um, and the impact that it has, it's first of all, it has an impact on you. Um, People may change their behavior or they may not change their behavior. That's secondary. But the main thing is, what is it doing for you and to you? How is it making you feel? And cherish that, you know. And I feel that this kind of attention and awareness and practice is all a way of nurturing the self and having a compassionate feeling towards the self. You know, Daddy once said, why do I make spiritual effort? And she said, it's because of dignity. I want to preserve my own dignity. It's for the sake of my own dignity that I make spiritual efforts. And so that's it. You know, we need to, why do we do this is so that I can feel, um, I can feel, you know, um, comfortable with myself. I can feel, I can trust myself. I can feel my own self-worth. I can feel light and content. I can feel my own progress. I can feel content. Um, and when I am in this state of having looked after myself, so that I'm feeling in this positive state within me, then I'm able to offer more. I'm able to give more. I'm able to serve at a more wider level. Otherwise, I end up wanting. And that's what extroversion is. I'm wanting you to fill the gap. And as long as I'm wanting you to fill the gap, there's an expectation. And with an expectation, there will always be some form of exchange that leads to pain. So, why do I do this? It's for my own well being, but not just so that I'm nice and comfortable in my little corner, but so that I can serve better, I can give better, I can offer better, I can reach out better, I can impact on a wider scale, I can make a difference just with my presence. It doesn't even mean I have to say or do much, but just with my presence, I can offer comfort and hope and a feeling of connection and belonging, which is so important. So, these are some of my thoughts that I had on this subject of introversion. And I'd like to leave a little bit of time now. If there's anyone who would like to ask a question, please, you can either put it in the chat, or you could even just unmute yourself and share. That would be great. It would be lovely to hear one or two of you, whoever would like to. Anyone? A question or a comment or some your own personal experience or reflection will be lovely.
Om Shanti and good evening. Om Shanti Pratibha Ben.
Hello, Shobha.
Can you hear me, Pratibha Ben?
I can hear you clearly. Go ahead.
With introversion, one is aware of the thoughts that are in the mind. And what I like is when we check our thoughts and when we change, then we actually choose which thoughts we should entertain.
Mm,
And this awareness is so symbolic of our positivity, and also we grow positively. And this
mm,
affects our attitude. When we have positive thoughts, then we have that positive, loving attitude as well. Thank
yeah.
you. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Shobha. Yeah, definitely. It's as simple as that. You know, sometimes we think it's very difficult or very complicated or whatever, but you know, it's that simple. But it's about cultivating that as a practice. And I think that's where the challenge is for all of us, and that is that the habit of being forgetful is very deep and just getting drawn. You know, a good image that was once used was, you know, you when you're going to go watch a movie in a cinema, right? Then you're sitting and you're aware that I'm here to watch a movie. And then, you know, the screen comes down and the movie starts and all of that. And slowly the plot begins to play itself out and whatever. And as the movie starts, you know, playing itself out, you then begin to identify with a character in the play, okay, in the movie. And then what begins to happen is it's like slowly your awareness that I am watching the movie sort of becomes a little bit blurred. And as you begin to identify with the character in the movie, it's like I become the character. And then what happens to the character, you start feeling it. You know, you get scared, you get happy, you get upset, or you get angry, or you get fearful, or whatever, based on what the character is going through. So it's like we lose that boundary of who I am and what the character is that's playing itself out in a way. And so introversion in a way is it's like that little bit of a you know, a wake up that I say, hey, I'm not this character. This is who I am. That's just a character playing itself out in a way. So keeping that clarity of what am I creating in here and what's the drama outside of me, and how much of the drama outside of me have I made it mine. um, and I do have a choice of not making it mine. I have a choice of saying, I don't have to absorb the negativity that's there. I can give it positivity. Another simple example, we had a sister, Hamleta, that was here, and she had a very nice example. She was in Colombia, and you know, the young boys, what they were doing is they would be on a skateboard and they would hang onto a truck or something of that sort, and be on their skateboards. And that was so dangerous because they could easily fall and the car behind them could knock them and stuff like that. So the brother who was driving said, this is so dangerous and I don't know why they do this. And, that kind of a thought of complaining about this kind of behavior. And she said, well, they're doing what they're doing and we can't stop them. But at least let's have the thoughts that they don't get hurt. Let my thoughts be that they don't get hurt, that they are safe, that they're okay. So it's just that in that moment, I have a choice. Am I going to feed into the wrong, or am I going to almost offer something that is loving, that is peaceful? And that's the choice I have, because the choice I make in that moment impacts me. And of course, it has a subtle impact on those around me as well. So yeah, it's simple, but it's about staying awake to that practice. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else would like to comment or ask a question?
Om Shanti Pratibhaben.
Hello, sir.
And yeah, so I'm not someone that's much of an introvert, but I've been trying that. And I realized by doing that, one tends to be very cautious on how you act, because in your mind you start working what you need to. You don't quickly put out there, and you're not impulsive. So in decision making, in your actions, your thoughts, behavior, everything seems more controlled, and uh, it seems more correct for me.
Mm,
That's what I find, because uh, as an extrovert, you look at everyone else there and you respond to that. Whereas introversion, you seem to more listen to yourself. You analyze whatever it needs to be analyzed, and then you act on it. So for me, that is definitely a better way to approach life. But something that you said, which is very interesting, that I need to take with that next time I meet my family, I want to start with. And like I was thinking of mom straight away. I'm going to hold a hand and say, think of me as just a tiny point, and look at mom in that way, and then try and interact. That's going to be an interesting exercise, which I would like to, maybe try next time. So yeah, when I next meet you, hopefully before then, I would experience it with someone here in Cape Town and just see how how it goes. Yeah, but thank you so much. Such a beautiful topic.
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
It's good to experiment. And
Yeah.
it's that conscious practice of seeing the other, because you go beyond um this thing of how we relate to each other because of the roles we play. Mom, daughter, wife, whatever the case may be. And suddenly all of that becomes secondary. And what is primary is that you are being that is worthy of love and dignity. And so then it creates a new way of expressing very deep love. Yeah. I see someone uh, has put something in the chat, but I see Leela's you unmuted. Would you like to ask something?
No, I'm sorry that I tuned in quite late, and
Okay.
I'm trying to follow the conversation so
Okay.
far. Maybe I
right.
will, as soon as I get a grasp of what's going on, I can make
Yeah.
a response.
Sure. Lata has put in a question. I'm trying to cope with noisy household. I'm finding it very difficult to cope. What advice can you give? Um, I think what is very useful is to create a, a time for yourself, um, where you actually, you know, give yourself that space to connect. I always recommend that when everyone is sleeping, early in the morning is a good time where you just sit and meditate and center yourself and, you know, give that quality time to yourself in that way. So it's before the household wakes up. You make that time for yourself. And I know someone else who also what she would do is she communicated with her family. She had a very busy household, lots of grandchildren living with her, and all of that. A tiny house, so the room is
Sorry,
always shared.
Pratibha Ben, you are breaking up.
Oh, okay. Um, I hope this works. So she would what she would do was she would always um, communicate with the family that in the evening I would spend time by myself. So I want half an hour in the evening by myself. So I think it's about like the household is busy, but you need to create a space for yourself in the household that you communicate to to give yourself that time, so that you can nurture yourself and give that quality time to yourself. It's important, and then the practice, because the practice really is that whilst engaging and whilst doing, it's like see the noise around you like outside of you. It's not inside of you. So the practice of introversion is to observe the noise inside of you. Um, and when you begin to take a handle of the noise inside of you, then the noise outside of you becomes very distant and doesn't affect you as much. Um, I was with a friend and we were standing in the courtyard in Ahmedabad. And while we were chatting, there was some banging and that happening. And if any of you've been to India, you know, India is a very noisy country. It's never quiet there. And you could either say, "Oh, it's so noisy," but she said it's part of the orchestra. It's just part of it's just part of what is. So I can either say, "Oh, it's noisy," or I can just say, "It's what it is." But let me check here and make sure that I'm not absorbing that noise here and take account of what I'm creating inside. So it's really about working with these practices a little bit. But yeah, create space for yourself and also just learn to observe the noise. Don't absorb the noise. Okay, good. Any other questions? Or otherwise, we can then move into a final meditation. Okay. Um, yeah, I think even if your family says that you're ignoring them, tell them no, I need only half an hour, which I would really appreciate. And I deserve half an hour. So, just sometimes we have to put boundaries, and that's also good. half an hour is not a lot that one is asking for. So it's okay to do that. Yeah. Okay, great. So if all are good, then let's end off with a final meditation. Okay, thank you. So again, I ask you to sit relaxed, breathing in deeply. And as you breathe out, just release any tension, any tightness, any discomfort that you may be feeling. And in this moment, just allow yourself with each breath to really just relax. And with each breath, just to feel yourself withdrawing from the external and gently stepping inward into your inner world, becoming aware of my deeper self, my inner face, the face of the soul. And to hold this awareness of the self as soul, I see myself as just light. And I feel myself as just being light. I drop the roles. I drop the memories of all the roles I've played, the impressions I've held. And just for this moment, I allow myself just to be light, pure, still light. And in this awareness, it's such a deep feeling of space, of freedom, of openness. And I reconnect with my peace and my stillness as my inner power, that which stabilizes me, that which enables me to feel anchored, anchored in my truth, anchored in light. And from this place of being light, very naturally, I begin to just express love and good wishes. The thought in my heart is that first I hold myself with loving feelings, irrespective of my past. But who I am, what I am, I'm worthy of love. And I extend this feeling of love to all living beings, whether I know them or I don't know them, but just a feeling of sharing an energy of love with all. Because love is what connects us. And this feeling of love for all opens my heart to feeling the love, the compassion, and that deep connection with the divine. And so this brings me that feeling of connection, of belonging, of fulfillment. I'm light and I'm free. And so holding these feelings, I allow it to inform my vision, my attitude, and my intentions as I step out and reconnect and engage with the world around me. Om Shanti. Thank you. So thank you all and stay well and take care. And I hope this evening was useful for all of you. Om Shanti. Thank you.